on Hawaiian punch. Oh, you like all this gush? Oh no, you can't get enough. Sipping on Hawaiian punch.
Hey, my name is Adeline Warren, and you're listening to Girl Talk. I like to say that I'm the big sister of the internet. You can watch me fuck up all you want, but hey, maybe we can learn something from it. I hope you enjoy. Hey, bitch. So y'all said you like the unscripted podcast, so I kind of want to try something new. So I've been reading a bit more, and I've been learning a lot with these self-help books. These are my personal favorite books to read. I like the self-help and business books, and I am the first one to say out of anyone that self-help books and business books are fucking boring. And there's a couple of things that like have helped me been able to focus on reading, because you know when you read your book and you're like la 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 la, huh, bombastic side eye. Like I always think of like random shit when I'm reading a book and they get sidetracked and I'm like I'm kind of hungry, and then I go and then I have to pee and then I have to put the book down and it basically never end up finishing my books. So I thought we could do a podcast episode just going over my favorite self-help books and business books, and I could just tell you guys about my favorite takeaways and my favorite quotes, and if you love it you could buy the book, and if you don't love it then fuck the book, who cares about the book. But two of my favorite books recently have been The 4-Hour Work Week and Rich Dad Poor Dad. I have a lot of other good book recommendations. Like I really, I always post on my spam account, whatever books I'm reading, I always post on my spam account. It's now Adeline on Instagram. But I would say that these are my favorite business ones, and I just love talking about it. Like whenever I meet someone and they're like, oh my God, you read this book? Oh my God, you read this? Like I just want to talk about it, because it's almost like, when you watch a TV show and you're like, oh my God, did you see like Savannah and Francesca? Like I'm team this person. Like, like you just want to talk about it when you read a book or you watch a TV show or whatever it is. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do today. I don't know what I'm going to call this series. Girl Talk. Let's read about it. Girl Talk. What are you reading? Girl Talk, I do not know. Girl Talk, I don't give a fuck what the title is. Girl Talk, let's just talk about it. Thanks to Keen for sponsoring this episode of Girl Talk. Keen's spiritual advisors have been helping people find answers and clarity in their lives for almost 25 years. With Keen, every conversation is confidential and you can connect by the phone or online chat within minutes. Plus, there's satisfaction guaranteed, so there's no risk in trying it out. So give it a try like I did. Head to keen.com/girltalk and get your first 10 minutes connecting with psychic advisors for just $1.99. That's keen.com/girltalk to get your first 10 minutes for just $1.99. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. For some, the benefits of therapy aren't immediate. It may take time to see actual change, and that's totally fine. But this shouldn't stop you from going. This is a process, one that takes time. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/girltalk to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/girltalk. This episode of Girl Talk is sponsored by Adam and Eve. All right, who wants to have better sex? I'm sure all of us do. And the best way to get going is to start. It doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, your order will be sent discreetly and for free. See for yourself, go on adamandeve.com and select any one item and enter the offer code GIRLTALK at checkout. And remember, this offer isn't exclusive to this podcast, so make sure to use the code GIRLTALK to receive 50% off, 100% free shipping, and rush processing at adamandeve.com. This one was one that I read the most recent, so I'm like so excited to talk about. It's called The 4-Hour Work Week, and it's by Timothy Ferriss. I really love this book, and I feel like I've seen it on the shelves for so many years, and I've been meaning to read it, but it's just like the thickness that really gets me. I'm like, there's literally no way I'm reading 400 pages. Like I don't think my whole life I've read like a 400 page book. Like I always either get distracted or I don't give a fuck. What has really helped me, and this is like a kind of tip that I would give when you're reading boring books, is I will write in them. And I know my mom is cringing because my mom would hate me when I would write in my books, but it really genuinely helps. And like, hey, I spent fucking like 33 Canadian fucking dollars on this, US $24. And am I going to resell it? Probably not. Also, I just saw on Anna Paul's TikTok that there's people who sell their books that they've written in. I don't know what it's called, but I would buy that because I feel like when you're reading a book, what is it called? I'm going to look it up. Sorry.
Right? So I wanted to buy a pre-annotated book because I saw that people
It's called a pre-annotated book.
annotate books. So I was like, oh my God. I think this is such a good gift idea, by the way. If you know someone that loves books for Christmas, go on Etsy and look up people who annotate books. So anyway.
People who annotate books, where they basically will highlight things or write little notes on the side, or, you know, put what they think is the most important, and and you can
back of the book. Wait, what's it called? One said it's called a legend. I think it's called a key. Anyways, where what each color means. So pink is cute romance, unexpected, shocked, made me laugh, need to remember.
So there's like a key, and they highlight it with all the different colors.
Sad/cried.
And it's like you're reading with someone. It's not like you're reading alone. It's like you're reading with someone because you see, oh, I cried during this part. Oh, this is such a cute romantic part. Or this is, I don't know. It was like, so I thought that was kind of fun. She reads her fiction books, but I thought it was kind of fun to write in my business books. So that's what I did. And I honestly feel like it has made reading boring books so much better because I used to never be able to read self-help books. You know, when you buy 5 books and you literally don't read any of them, you open like half of a book. That was me. So I found that reading or doing Audible and listening to books while I drive has been helping. But then I was like, I get kind of bored and tired on the road, and I'm like, I just want to listen to music and whatever. So I kind of took a break from listening to audiobooks, and then I started picking up my old books that I picked up or I already bought, and I started writing in them. And I'll literally just highlight things that I think are important. And if there's anything that I want to remember, I'll write down. Like they said the NR, which means the new rich, and I will doodle in them. And I think there's like a little doodle. I'll read these books like sometimes randomly throughout my day, or I'll just read it when I'm just hanging out with Blue. I think I have a drawing of Blue in one of these. Where is it? It's near the end, I think. Where is it? Like one of the quotes said, what did you dream of being when you were a kid? And then I literally drew a picture of me and Blue at the Eiffel Tower. And I literally manifested that since I was a kid. And I forgot that I wanted to do that when I was a kid. And I would like draw butterflies and fun things and just underline the key important things. And I feel it's almost like, you know, when you're in class and you're writing notes, it's almost like that. I feel like I'm acquiring the information in my brain way better than if I were to just read bored and then, you know, forget about the book. I feel like when I write in it, I'm like, okay, I'm already halfway done. It's almost like an accomplishment. And then when I actually finish the book, I'm like, oh my God, I wrote it all. Like, this is crazy. But I've honestly really learned a lot throughout this book. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek. And hey, does it work for everyone? Like, no, I think it definitely is very specific for entrepreneurs and people who want to start a business and people who want to work for themselves or maybe do social media or maybe do this or maybe it doesn't really apply to everyone. But I really, really, really loved it because sometimes I feel like I work harder as opposed to smarter. And that's what this whole book is about working smarter and not harder. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people will not agree with a lot of the things in this book, but I think it's just really eye-opening and I really, you know, do take everything with a grain of salt. So one of the things that he really emphasizes on is you can charter a private plane, enjoy the best wines in the whole world, in between world-class ski runs, live like a king, lounge by an infinity pool, off a private villa, and it all costs less than rent in the US. And I was like, that's so bullshit. Like that shit, all that shit adds up and all that shit is expensive. But he really goes into it and talks about like all of the countries that are so beautiful to live in and their rent prices are way less than the US. And I believe it. Like I remember living in Bali, like Bali rent, it's so beautiful down there, but it's just so cheap down there. And you could really just get a visa. You land into Bali and you buy a visa when you're there. It's so easy to get a visa in Bali. And there's a bunch of places that he talks about. And the main thing that he talks about is the new rich and getting rid of all of your beliefs about retirement and, getting a house and saving up for retirement and then retiring and living your best life. Because let's be so fucking for real right now. Like, retirement is so fucked up. I think it literally says most people will never be able to retire and maintain a hot dogs for dinner standard of living. Even 1 million is chump change in a world where traditional retirement could span 30 years and inflation lowers your purchasing power 2 to 4% per year. The math doesn't work and the golden years become lower middle class life revisited, and it's a bittersweet ending. Like, that shit stresses me out because I was always told when I was younger to save up your money, put your money on a retirement savings plan, work really hard when you're young, and then you're going to be able to retire and you're going to be able to be on vacation. You're going to be able to live your best life when you're older. But nowadays it's like we're kind of getting fucked over. Like, that's not the case at all. Like, that's why this book, they really try to encourage having mini retirements throughout life, not working, and then retiring all at once when you're older. Because if you really think about it, I used to think about this all the time because I grew up with people telling me like, oh, like I need to work really hard and like, wouldn't you rather like retire and then live your best life and go on vacation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, retire when you're 75? When you're old and you have to replace your hip? Wouldn't you rather, travel when you're young? Wouldn't you rather, go cliff jumping when you're young, go and go-karting when you're young, go doing this when you're young, as opposed to saving up all your money for retirement? So in the book, it really says the NR, the new rich, claims to distribute many retirements throughout life instead of hoarding the recovery and enjoyment of the fool's gold retirement. Personally, I now aim for 1 month of overseas relocation or high-intensity learning, which is like, he really likes to learn something new in a different country. So like tango, fighting, whatever, for every 2 months of work projects. And we're also in a time where a lot of, at least my work and like marketing and social media and blah, 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 a lot of it could just be done virtually. We're not in a day and age where like you have to go into the office. And I mean, there are a lot of jobs that are still like that, but we're in a day and age where you can go on Zoom and do the exact same thing than if you were to go in the office and, be at home and work and whatever. It also focuses on less is not laziness. I used to always think that I have to work, and then I deserve happiness and I'm productive if I work. But focus on being productive instead of being busy. That's where I got really mixed up because I would schedule work on Monday, and then after I'm going to hang out with my friends, and then I'll go do an event, and then I would do my work, and then do a brand deal, and then do the, photo shoot for this, and then like I would just do a lot of shit that was just like not helping my career or really benefiting me at all. Like, for example, going to like makeup events. A lot of the times it's just like, it doesn't benefit me at all. Like, hey, it's really cool to like, meet and network with people, and it's really cool to get free makeup, but you don't need to do that every week. Like, there's times where I would like be filling up my schedule, and I'm like, I don't need to be doing this shit every week. Like, I don't need to be going to makeup events. I don't need to be going out partying every week. I don't need to be doing this. I don't need to be doing this. I swore my life that I was like the most productive person in the world, but I wasn't being productive. I was just being busy, and I would just fill my schedule with like shit. Like, oh my God. Like, I used to, like, for example, I would always book a massage at this one spot that's like an hour away from my house, just because my friend was there and we could get massages done together. And it would take almost an hour to get there, and I would do an hour massage, and then I would do an hour to get back. And I was like, what in the world is wrong with me? Like, yeah, it's like really awesome to see my friend, but I see her, and then we go into our separate massage rooms, and it's like it's 3 hours of my day that I have to base my whole day around. And then traffic and everything. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I found a massage place that's walking distance from my apartment, and that only takes an hour of my day. I don't know if that makes sense. Another thing that it touches on is the universe doesn't conspire against you, but it doesn't go out of its way to line up all of your pins either. Conditions are never perfect. And I used to be like, I'm going to launch my YouTube channel when it's perfect, and I'm going to do my podcast when it's perfect. I'm going to have the perfect brand deal, and I'm going to have the perfect, podcast network, and I'm going to launch my podcast when it's absolutely perfect. When I have my perfect microphone and I have my perfect camera set up and have my perfect, talking points and my perfect subjects, and my podcast is going to be perfect when I launch it. And then 5 years later, I literally never launched my podcast. Do you guys remember when I was talking about launching my podcast in like 2015? I wish I did, because now I feel like, so many people have podcasts and I love listening to podcasts, but it's just like now there's so many options that you can listen to. But I wish I launched it way back in the day, because, it would have been nice to, relate to people and talk to people about the things that I was going through back then, and really get the hang of things, because now I'm in 2023 and I'm just a beginner podcaster. And maybe if I started in 2015, maybe I would have been a little bit better. And maybe if I would have started in 2015 and my setup was shit and my podcast was shit, and maybe everyone thought that my podcast was shit, maybe I would have gotten better and better and better. And by the time it's 2023, I'm a fucking amazing podcaster. I don't know. It's things like that where I'm like, okay, once I have the perfect network, I'm going to launch. Fuck that shit. That's something that I wish that I didn't do. And I wish that I just posted. Like, who cares? Just post your thing, start your podcast, start your business. It's literally never going to be perfect. And the longer you wait, the more likely it's going to suck. I don't want to say that, but nobody's first video on YouTube is going to be perfect. Like, the more that you practice, the more perfect it's going to get. Practice makes perfect, in my opinion. That's why I always feel like quantity is better than quality, because when I'm always thinking, oh, it's like the quality, I need to make sure that it's perfect, I need to make sure that it's amazing and everyone's going to love it, and blah. 100% of people are going to ever love your thing. And if 100% of people love your thing, then something's fucking wrong with you, because not everybody's going to like your shit. Like, people are going to watch my podcast, and there's going to be the Andrew Tate bros that are going to watch my shit, and they're going to be like, this is a waste of my time. Like, fuck you, dumb bitch. Like, and then there's people that, are my age, and like, maybe we can relate, and like, maybe they're trying to start a business and they actually really want to watch or read this book, and they never saw this book until now, and they're like, maybe I want to read it. I don't know. Thanks to Keen for sponsoring this episode of Girl Talk. Psychics, astrology, tarot cards, you either believe it or you don't, but I guess if you're in the middle, then it's time to see for yourself with Keen. Keen's spiritual advisors have been helping people find answers and clarity in their lives for almost 25 years, and Keen's vetted best-in-class psychic advisors are available 24/7. So if you ever need to find balance or reassurance, or just have a burning question that needs to be answered in the middle of the night, then don't worry, because Keen has got your back. I was finally able to use Keen, and I decided to get a tarot card reading to mix it up a little bit, but I feel like if maybe I tell y'all the truth, then I might just jinx it. But let's just say I was happy in the end. With Keen, every conversation is confidential, and you can connect by the phone or online chat within minutes. Plus, there's satisfaction guaranteed, so there's no risk in trying it out. So give it a try like I did. Head to keen.com/girltalk and get your first 10 minutes connecting with psychic advisors for just $1.99. That's keen.com/girltalk to get your first 10 minutes for just $1.99. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, because we're always growing and evolving as people. Who we are now is not the same person that we were 5 to 10 years ago, or even a year ago. We're constantly changing. I'm definitely not the same person that I was back in high school, and thank God, because can you imagine? Honestly, that's the goal. You should want to change every single year. You should want to deepen your awareness and understanding, because it's the only way to become the best version of yourself. But overall, this is a long way of saying that you should go to therapy. Because for real, therapy is the key. And I always tell my friends this. I'm currently in therapy and I even have a life coach. I really think that it's working, and it has worked over the past couple of years. I'm happy. I'm taking breaks from work. I'm no longer burning out, and I'm just content with everything right now. For some, the benefits of therapy aren't immediate. It may take time to see actual change, and that's totally fine. But this shouldn't stop you from going. Like I said earlier, this is a process, one that takes time. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/girltalk to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/girltalk. Me and Andre always joke about this because it is the best advice I've ever given to anyone. It is, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. If the potential damage is moderate or in any way reversible, don't give people the chance to say no. Get good at being a troublemaker and saying sorry when you really screw up. I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. Do you guys remember when I talked about that one party that I went to? I'll tell a little brief story time about it now, because I think I talked about it on my TikTok. But I basically went to this event. It was a brand event, and it was really cool. It was in Malibu, and it was an all-white party, and I was so excited about it because it just looked like really fun. It was open bar, and they had food, and it was at Nobu, I think. It was really nice. And they told us to arrive at, I don't know, they told us to arrive at a certain time, and I arrive at that time. Once I get to the event, they're like, hey, we're over capacity. You're not getting in. And I was like, excuse me, I didn't ask to be here. Like, I didn't ask, hey, can you invite me? I said, you invited me. Like, you told me to come to your event. And then now you're uninviting me. Like, you're saying it's over capacity. Like, it's not my fucking problem. Like, y'all should have known the capacity and not invited too many people. And I felt so bad because there's also people who bought bottles, and they spent thousands of dollars on bottles. And they're like, dude, I literally bought bottles. How am I not allowed in? And they're like, sorry, bro, you're not getting in. It's over capacity. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So I was like, you know what? I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. So I hopped the fence. Andre hopped the fence too. And a couple security guards like went up to us, and I was like, hey, like, I pretended to be drunk, and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry, like, oh, like, I was already in the event, but I needed to get like my lip gloss from my car, so I just, I came back in. And then my friend was like, oh yeah, she was already here. And then they were like, oh, this girl is so drunk. And then Andre, one guy asked him for like $100 on Venmo. Like, that's how weird this event was. Like, the security guard asked Andre for like $100 on Venmo, and Andre's like, I don't have Venmo, I don't have Cash App, I don't have this, I don't have this. And they're like, ugh, whatever, you could just go. And they just let us go. That's what I'm saying about, like, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. Like, I could have just wasted all that time getting ready. I think we drove an hour to the event. Well, we Ubered an hour to the event. For us to just get turned away, I was like, fuck that. So we literally hopped the fence, and I had the best time ever, and I don't regret it, and it was the best night ever. But one thing I did learn after that event is, if you're gonna go to any networking event or any party, I would rather show up early. And I know my friends are always like, you don't want to be like the first couple people to show up, like, it's gonna be empty by the time we get there. Yeah, bitch, I want to be one of the first people to show up, because I don't want to have no trouble getting in. I hate that shit. Especially if you ever go to parties in LA, even Toronto sometimes. I would rather be early and have no one be there and not pay cover charge and whatever, and just hang out and have drinks, than show up and get turned away, or show up and have a hard time getting in, or show up and have to suck someone's dick to get it. No, I'm kidding. I'd never done that. But no, I'm kidding. It's a headache. I would rather be early than be late. But me and Andre weren't even late to that party. Like, they're always unorganized. Anyways, another thing. This is still in chapter 1, by the way, but I feel like this chapter is really good with a lot of good information. It says, it is possible to have too much of a good thing. Things in excess become their opposite. Too much, too many, and too often of what you want becomes what you don't want. This is true of possessions and even time. Lifestyle design is thus not interested in creating an excess of idle time, which is poisonous, but the positive use of free time, defined simply as doing what you want as opposed to what you feel obligated to do. I used to think, oh, if I was a full-time YouTuber and I just did YouTube as my job, and I would just get PR packages all the time, and everyone would, comment on my things and like my things, and like, I would just be amazing. My life would be so perfect, because that's my true passion. It's what I truly love to do. And while that is true, and while I do love doing what I do, there is something to be said as too much of a good thing. Do you guys ever find maybe you've been on vacation for too long and you just kind of feel like weird and icky, and like the world feels out of place, and like you kind of lose your routine, and it's almost like too much of a good thing? Or even say too much dessert. Like, imagine you had dessert for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's too much of a good thing, and like you get sick of it after a while. And if you feel like it's something that you're obligated to do, like maybe you've always loved painting when you were a kid, and then you're like, I want to make painting my full-time job, and then, you know, something, your paintings go off and you're selling your paintings for $1 million, and then suddenly you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I don't even know if I like doing this anymore. Like, this used to be my passion, but now I'm obligated to do it and I don't even want to do it anymore. Like, it's my job now. It's not something that's fun. It's not something that I do in my pastime. It's not something that I create. I just let my creativity flow. It's something that I have to do, because if I don't do it, I'm not going to pay my bills, and I'm not going to be able to afford rent, and I can't pay for my groceries. Like, I need to do this thing. And then you start procrastinating on the thing that you once loved. Like, too much of something, it definitely can be possible to have too much of a good thing. Another thing that I wish my younger self knew, it says money alone is not the solution. Adding more money just isn't the answer as often as we think it is. In part, laziness. If only I had more money. It's the easiest way to postpone the intense self-examination and decision-making necessary to create a life of enjoyment, now and not later. By using money as a scapegoat and working as our all-consuming routine, we're able to consecutively disallow ourselves the time to do otherwise. Deep down, we all know it's all an illusion, but with everyone participating in the same game of make-believe, it's easy to forget. The problem is more than money. And I feel like everyone always says, rich people saying that money doesn't buy happiness, like they're so out of touch, like money actually can buy happiness. And I think that is true. Money can solve a lot of problems. It can solve, stress about paying rent and like paying your bills and, doing this and doing this. But there is also something to be said about Drake saying more money, more problems. It is true. You don't realize, when you have money to afford rent, when you have money to afford Wi-Fi and pay your bills and everything, all your problems just don't go away. You get more problems when you get more money. And money isn't the only thing that can solve all of your problems. Hell yeah, it could solve a lot of problems, but it can't solve all of your problems. And I think it's a mix of, working hard, making money, going to therapy, figuring out what makes you happy, constantly learning about yourself, constantly learning what makes you happy, what makes you feel fulfilled, spending time with family. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like growing up, I didn't have a lot of money. And one thing that is so ingrained in my brain is I really wanted a Victoria's Secret pink backpack, and it was $80, and it was at Victoria's Secret Pink, and it was a Galaxy backpack, and I've always wanted it, and they had it every single year, and I've always wanted it. It's like the most beautiful backpack in my mind, because remember back in the day with Bethany Moda at times when like Galaxy was super popular, and there'd be Galaxy leggings, and like there'd be stars and like Brandy Melville shorts with like the little moons on it, you know what I mean? Like that shit was good back in the day. That shit, you were an it girl if you had that shit back in the day. So I would beg my mom every single year. I've always wanted this Victoria's Secret $80 backpack, and like year upon year upon year I would like never be able to afford it. My family couldn't afford it, and like we just were never able to get it. And I'd be like, my life would be so much better if I just had that fucking $80 backpack. And I'm getting to the point soon, okay? So the time finally comes, like I think I saved all my money from Christmas, and I was finally able to buy my Victoria's Secret backpack. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be the shit. Everyone's gonna love me. I'm gonna be popular in school. Everyone's gonna ask me about my backpack. They're gonna compliment me with my backpack. My life is gonna be amazing once I have this fucking backpack. So I finally get the backpack, and nothing changed. I was still just as unhappy with myself. I was still just as insecure. I didn't get any more friends because of the backpack. I thought this backpack was going to change everything, but it really fucking didn't. I think it applies to a lot of things in life, because you're like, if I was rich, if I had a really nice car, if I had designer everything, if I had really nice clothes, if I flew private jets, everybody's going to like me. But it's all a facade, and it's not true. And I almost feel like a lot of people that are rich are fucking weird, and they're fucking lonely, and they don't know who their true friends are, and they don't know who actually likes them for them, or if they just like them because of their money, or if they just are fucking weird. I don't know. I feel like I honestly feel like people who are rich have really weird fucking friends. Like, I always look at from an outsider perspective, I'm like, it's so weird that you don't see what I see. Like, I feel like they're just like being friends with you. Like, they just give me a weird slimy vibe. Like, I don't know. And I also see these TikToks and they're like, I need 30 bands like right fucking now to like pay for all of like the designer things that they want and like all the nice clothes that they want. And trust me, I've literally been there. I get paid from my paycheck and I'm like, oh my God, this was like a really good month. I'm going to spoil myself. I'm going to get some like designer things. And this is going to like make me super happy. And you have serotonin for the moment that you buy it and then you barely wear it. And then it's like the next thing, and you want the next new bag and the next new shoes and the next new this and the next new that. And you're like, I swear I'm going to be happy by the end of it. Once I have all of these amazing things, I'm going to be happy. But it's like I ended up just being a hoarder and I never was happy. And I just had like a bunch of material items that cost a lot of money. I have a bunch of fabric that cost a lot of money that ultimately made me happy for maybe a day, and it wasn't fulfilling. And I thought that people would like me more if I wore this, or I, had jewelry or diamonds or this watch or this, that, but no one would notice. No one would notice when I bought a new watch. No one would notice when I bought a new bag, and no one would notice when I got whatever. But I don't know why I really wanted to touch on this subject, because I think it's just something that I thought when I was younger would fix everything. I thought money would fix everything. If I was rich, it would fix everything. I literally remember when I was younger, I was like, when I have kids, I need to have a really nice house so that my kids can invite their friends over and they will see that their parents are rich and they will have better friends because they're rich and they have a nice house. Like, that's so sad that I thought that. And I used to hate my mom's house, and I used to think like, oh my God, my house like isn't as nice as like my other friend's house. Like, they're gonna think that, I'm not as cool, and like my room isn't decorated cool. And I was like, I probably have more friends if like I had a cooler house, but it's just not the case. And I hate that I used to think that. And I honestly really need to FaceTime my mom and just like thank her for all the things that she gave me. And like sometimes I definitely feel like I was ungrateful for certain things. Like, I grew up with a roof over my head, and like my parents were like able to pay the bills. And like when I was younger, I used to think that money would literally solve all my problems. And if I'm rich, then I would just, have so many friends. But it's just not the case. And it wasn't a money thing for me. It was a me thing. And I was just like a super introverted kid. And I thought like, if I had a Victoria's Secret backpack and had a really nice house, like people would want to be my friend. But it was just a me thing. And I needed to figure out, how to introduce myself to more people, and how to push myself to be a little bit more extroverted, and push myself to compliment other people and make friends, and push myself to not be a fucking loner. Like, me and my friends would literally hang out in the bathroom. Like, we didn't hang out in the cafeteria at lunch. Like, I literally had 2 friends in high school, and we knew that we were losers. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to be so rich. I'm going to have a nice house, and I'm going to give my kids the best cool supplies. I'm going to give my kids the best backpack, and they're going to make so many friends because they have the best of the best. But that's just never what it was. It was me. It wasn't my backpack. It wasn't my house. It wasn't whatever. It was just me. And money wouldn't solve like the fact that I had no friends. It was literally just me. And I had to do some inner work and inner reflecting and realizing like not everyone's going to go up to you. Like, you're a loner because you don't go up to people. Like, it's not other people's responsibility to go up to you and like become your friend and whatever. It's your responsibility. If you want to make friends with people, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to say hi to someone that you don't know, or compliment someone's outfit, or, ask for help with homework. Like, I swore that I was such a loser and I was such a loner in high school because I had no money, but it was me. This episode of Girl Talk is sponsored by Adam and Eve. All right, who wants to have better sex? I'm sure all of us do. And the best way to get going is to start going on adamandeve.com right now. Although it may be a spicy website full of toys, lubes, lingerie, and everything else that you could possibly want, one of the best parts about Adam and Eve is that they ship your packages discreetly so you can maintain your privacy around your nosy neighbors. It doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, your order will be sent discreetly and for free. But this offer gets even better because right now Adam and Eve is offering our listeners 50% off almost any item. And that's not all. And you'll also get rushed processing on your order so you can bring more pleasure to the bedroom right now. I was looking at their website earlier to see what they have, and my cart filled up way too fast because they have so much. You'll want to try it all. To see for yourself, go on adamandeve.com and select any one item and enter the offer code GIRLTALK at checkout. And remember, this offer isn't exclusive to this podcast, so make sure to use the code GIRLTALK to receive 50% off, 100% free shipping, and rush processing at adamandeve.com. Anyway, sorry, that was a little tangent. Let's go back to the thing. Another thing that they say is distress is bad and eustress is good. There are two separate types of stress, each as different as euphoria, and it's seldom mentioned opposite dysphoria. Distress refers to harmful stimuli that makes you weaker, less confident, and less able. Destructive criticism, abusive bosses, and smashing your face on the curb are examples of this. These are things that we want to avoid. Eustress, on the other hand, is a word most of you have probably never heard of. Eu, a Greek prefix for healthy, is used for the same sense in the word euphoria. Role models who push us to exceed our limits, physical training that removes our spare tires, and risks that expand our sphere of comfortable action are all examples of eustress, stress that is healthful and the stimulus for growth. There's no progress without eustress, and the more eustress we can create or apply to our lives, the sooner we can actualize our dreams. The trick is telling the two apart. The new rich are equally aggressive in removing distress and finding eustress. I also really love this chapter. It just basically talks about your nightmare of the worst possible thing that could happen if you followed your dreams. These are the couple things that it talks about. To find your nightmare, the absolute worst that could happen if you did what you're considering. So for me, I was like, oh my God, what if I launch my podcast and literally no one listens? Like I buy the microphone, I spend thousands of dollars on the equipment, and nobody cares. Like what's gonna happen if like nobody cares and it's a flop, and other people will see that it's a flop and my career is dying, and my career is dead, and then I don't have a career anymore, and then I have to find a new career and to pay the bills. Would it be the end of your life? No, it wouldn't be the end of my life if nobody listened to the podcast. What steps would you take to repair the damage or get things back on the upswing, even if temporarily? Chances are it's easier than you imagine. So if my podcast fails, hey, I think at least hopefully I'll still have my vlog channel, and hopefully I'll still have, my other social medias, and it could also be really fun. Also diversifying my income. I'll also still have my properties, my rental properties, and my stock. So it's not going to be the end of the world if my podcast flops. What are the outcomes or benefits, both temporary and permanent, of more probable scenarios? Now that you define the nightmare, what are the more probable or definite positive outcomes, whether internal, confidence, self-esteem, or external? I think it would definitely hurt my ego if the podcast flopped, but it definitely isn't the end of the world. And like maybe, I don't do it for gazillions of people to watch and for it to be famous and whatever. I just did the Girl Talk podcast so that if someone is going through the same things that I'm going through and it helps one person, then that's all that matters. And it also asks, has less intelligent people done this before and pulled it off? Hell yeah. People do podcasts all the time, and it launches all the time, and it goes off all the time. Like, if you were fired from your job today, what would you do to get things under financial control? What are you putting off out of fear? What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. What is it costing you financially, emotionally, and physically to postpone the action? If you telescope out 10 years and know with 100% certainty that it is a path of disappointment and regret, and if we define the risk as the likelihood of an irreversible negative outcome, inaction is the greatest risk of all. So what are you waiting for? If you cannot answer this without resorting to the previously rejected concept of good timing, the answer is simple. You're afraid. Just like the rest of the world, measure the cost of inaction, realize the unlikelihood and repairability of most missteps, and develop the most important habit of those who excel and enjoy doing so: action. But I really love the 4-hour work week. If you're an entrepreneur or someone with really just big goals and big ambitions and you want to achieve great things, the 4-Hour Work Week is a really, really, really good book for entrepreneurs and people who want to work for themselves. Another book that I really wanted to talk about, I don't have the physical copy with me, I just did the audiobook, but it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is such a good book if you just don't really know a lot of basics about money. This was one of my first finance books that I've ever read, and if you're going to start any book, I would really recommend this one because I feel like it's just like finance for dummies almost. So some of my favorites is, I have it in my little note. Lesson 1 teaches us the importance of financial education and understanding how to make money work for us. The key takeaway is to focus on getting assets that generate passive income as opposed to liabilities that drain your finances. So an asset could maybe be buying a property and then renting out the basement to create passive income. And creating a liability would be, buying a property and then having more bills to pay. Like that's where it gets kind of some people believe in it, some people don't. I believe in it like to a certain extent. I'm not like 100 ride or die for this book, but I think that there is something to be said about, things that are assets versus things that are liabilities. That's my biggest takeaway, honestly, from the book is to find assets. So assets could be a property that you rent out to make $2,000 a month. An asset could be maybe you have a camera that you literally never use and it's a nice DSLR camera and it's just sitting in your garage. Maybe putting it up on Facebook Market so that people can rent it for like $100 a day. That's an asset. A liability would be something like upgrading your phone, even though the current phone is like perfectly fine, but you just want all of the new features and you have to pay an extra monthly fee for this new phone. That's kind of like a liability. Okay, so I just found this one on Pinterest and like definitely take all of this like as a grain of salt, but it says that an asset could be a house, renting out. Stocks and bonds, those make your money go up in value, and it's like it's something that makes you money. It's kind of like making your money work for you. So stocks and bonds, your money will constantly be going up. Some liabilities could be debt, credit cards, maybe like your car payments. Like it's so stupid. I leased a car. And it was a luxury car, but this type of luxury car that I leased, it would always have problems with it. And it was really cool because it was really fancy and the engine was really loud and it was really nice. But it just was like so fucking expensive every month. I would spend thousands of dollars on this car every single month. And it wasn't an asset. It wasn't something that made me money. It was a liability that cost me more money. So it's really about understanding the difference between working for your money and making your money work for you. And a lot of millionaires and a lot of billionaires, they understand that you're not going to become a millionaire by working. You're going to become a millionaire by having all of these, different sources of income and passive income that you don't have to work for, income that your money just makes its own money. But some really good notes are, with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you're like, what do you mean Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Like, what does that mean? The poor dad from the author, his name is Robert. And the poor dad represents the traditional view of the work and money. So go to university, get a 9-to-5 job, climb the corporate ladder. This worked well in the 20th century, but not anymore, he says. And the rich dad represents the independent, wealthy views of work and money. He builds assets, he invests wisely, works for salary only if you enjoy and have to. Something else is it's a lot easier to make $10,000 than it is to save $10,000. And that's where he kind of talks about the fear of like not having money. It makes people work hard, which turns into frivolous spending and the rat race of a never-ending loop between fear and greed. The rich don't work for money. Money works for them. They're getting rich by owning assets, and every dollar that you spend, not invest, is the dollar that does not work for you. Think of each dollar as an employee that can work 24 hours a day. And then again, buying assets as opposed to liabilities. An asset is anything that produces income, appreciates in value, and does not require your active management. So for example, I kind of talked about this in the investing episode, but I was talking about like how Birkins are not really an investment. I mean, it technically is. People say that Birkins go up in value more than gold does, but an asset that is anything that produces income, so like stocks, rental properties, appreciates in value. I guess a Birkin, any sort of collector's item or things that maybe sell out, like tickets, like sports tickets or concert tickets, people resell them for even more. It does not require your active management. For example, stocks, bonds, income generating real estate, businesses that generate profit, royalties from intellectual properties such as a book or music. Investments can often be deceptive. They can look like an asset where in reality it's a liability. So these are the things that he says to avoid, which is like a house. It's taking money out of your pocket. And while real estate can go up in value over time, there's no guarantee of this. And, on top of, paying your mortgage and being able to sell your house at the end of the day, not only are you paying the mortgage, you're also paying for property taxes, land transfer fees. You're paying for, if you have to replace the roof every couple years and maybe something breaks and the piping breaks and then it's thousands of dollars on this and thousands of dollars on that. And at the end of the day, people could say that it's almost just as much to rent. But it's very controversial. Like some people agree with it and some people don't. But those are my two favorite books for business. If you liked any of these, I didn't even get to like the surface of it. Like that was the tip of the iceberg with all of these books. And I've learned so much from them. So if you want to, make sure to grab it because I really, really, really recommend it. Maybe next episode I could talk about my favorite self-help books or even just like relationship books. Because I used to talk about what was that? Oh, I used to talk about, what was that book? Oh, Why Men Love Bitches. I used to talk about that book all the time. And then I looked back on it the other day and I was like, damn, like there was this one chapter about faking an orgasm. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, girl, I read this book when I was like fresh out of a breakup, like 21 years old. So take everything with a grain of salt. There are some good things in that book, but there are some things that I don't agree with in that book. But I think for the basics, it's like a pretty good book. But I have a lot of like fun self-help books, a lot of fun relationship books. These are just my two favorite business books. Let me know if you even like these episodes where I just like read you guys my favorite books and tell you my favorite things and my favorite quotes from them. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's vlog. I hope it wasn't too boring. But as you hear from my alarm, I gotta go. I love you guys. I'm always here if you need to talk every Wednesday on the Girl Talk channel. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcast, then make sure to give me a rating. It helps me a lot. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, give it a like. But I love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one every Wednesday. I'm always here. Love you. Bye. Did you like that episode? I really hope that you did. If you haven't already, then make sure to watch last week's episode or the week after. Just click on the links, whatever it is. And I hope that you guys enjoyed. Also, be sure to subscribe because it helps me a lot. But I love you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.
Sipping on Hawaiian punch. Squeeze the sides, feel it rush. Sipping on Hawaiian punch. Know you like all this gush. Oh no, you can't get enough. Sipping on Hawaiian.